Today, all new, the television exclusive.
From the heart of America, twin sisters come forward, raped for years by their own brothers and their own father.
From the time that you were 5 years old,
I felt like it was just something that families did.
your mother walked in and saw your brothers raping you.
What their mother has to say,
Do you believe that she's sorry?
how they escaped, and from behind bars, hear from their brothers now.
Next.
I have done hundreds of shows on this topic, and I'm going to keep trying to bring light to this darkness until the Oprah show is over. And I want to show you a newspaper. Here's the headline, Horror at Home. Now, I believe there's a reason why this came across the desk of one of my producers, because there's a reason for everything. It is the story of 19-year-old twins, Kathy and Kelly, who endured and have survived years and years of terror and torture in their own home in Kansas. By coming forward, police tell us they have already had a profound impact on their hometown. So we thought, imagine the effect their story could have on our audience around the world. Watch this.
I've been with the police department for about 9 years, but this, without a doubt, is the most horrendous sexual abuse case that I ever worked.
It was a two-story house in a nice neighborhood.
Everybody was completely unprepared for what we walked into. We went downstairs into the basement. It looked like a dungeon. It was dark. The walls were painted black. The windows were painted over with black. There was a dirty, dingy mattress laying there. It smelled.
Andrew lived in the basement, and the basement's hard to talk about because where it all happened, mainly.
At the age of 5, Kathy's 10-year-old brother Andrew began dragging her to his basement bedroom. His dark, damp room became a torture chamber for Kathy and her twin sister Kelly.
The abuse started with fondling. Sooner or later it came to having to perform oral sex on him and him doing the same to us. There were times where he would play porn on the TV and we'd have to perform the same thing that was going on. He also sodomized me, which was very painful. There would be times where we'd be in the same room and he could be abusing either Kelly or I. I mean, I just didn't like seeing fear in my sister's eyes. I mean, there could be times when she's being raped and she's looking you in her eyes like, help me. A typical day would be my mother saying to go wake up Andrew. I would go wake him up, and then he'd make me have sex with him. He'd rape me. It was very disturbing to get raped before school because you feel just disgusting. You feel gross. And I hated that. Andrew was just this big, strong, angry person. He wasn't a brother at all. He was a monster.
So let's see the video of the twins again around 5 years old. That's the age that they say the sexual abuse started. Think about your children at that age, the innocence, the simple joy. Kathy and Kelly were robbed of that. They had no childhood. It was utterly stolen from them.
There was a time when Matthew walked in on Andrew raping me in the basement, and his first instinct was to get him off of me, but soon after he started doing the same thing. Kelly and I shared bunk beds, and every other night it would take either Kelly or I at odd hours of the night.
The sexual abuse went on for years. When their 40-year-old father, Brad, found out what his sons were doing to his own daughters, he called the twins up to his bedroom and said, "Do it to me too."
There would be a night where it'd be Matthew, and then a few hours or a few minutes later, it'd be Andrew, and later on that night it'd be Brad.
Over and over, Kathy and Kelly tried to tell the one person they hoped would help them.
What? My mother would go out at nights and we would tell her you know, we're going to get raped again. We're going to get hurt again. And you're going to leave. And she just walked out. She would just walk out.
So for 8 years, the twins, Kelly and Kathy, were virtually sex slaves in their own home, raped almost every single day by their two older brothers, teenage boys, and their own father. It has taken them 6 years to be able to talk publicly about what they've endured. So you all are 19 now. Why did you want to come forward now, Kathy and Kelly?
The main reason I wanted to come out and reveal my story is because, you know, you don't speak about this in other homes. It happens, though. I mean, other families go through this, but, you know, you don't speak about it.
So you all made a decision together that you were going to go public?
Yes.
Yeah. So at the time that this was happening, from the time that you were 5 years old to 13 years old, I know that when you're 5 years old, you have no idea of what sex is or what it means. And so when somebody is touching you, or even somebody shows you a penis, or you're expected to give oral sex, you don't even know what that is. So when did you know what it was, and that what it was wrong?
I was in 5th grade, and they were talking about sexual education.
And by 5th grade, you were 10 years old, right?
Yes, and she was talking about how couples make love, and how people get together and how make babies, and it just clicked. I sat there in shock. I mean, I knew that what was going on in our home was not right. Families aren't supposed to have sex with each other.
Yeah. Did you know that before the 5th grade, though?
No.
Was that the moment of, was that the pivotal moment for you when you went, whoa,
Yeah.
that is happening to me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt brainwashed until 5th grade. That's when I knew it was wrong.
So it started, as you all said on the tape, it started with fondling and touching, and then gradually grew to full-on intercourse and oral sex and sodomy. Did your brother threaten you?
Yes. Our brothers did threaten us quite often.
The first time it happened, did he threaten you, or did you just instinctively know not to tell?
Yes. I mean, I felt like we had to just not say anything. We didn't know. I felt like it was just something that families did. I was brainwashed, and I felt like we had to do this. I mean, I thought that was family.
Tell me, how old were you when you went to your father, and why did you go to your father?
The age is really iffy. We were like older, probably like 10, 8 or 10.
And so by the time you decide, I'm going to tell our father, you went to your father because you thought your father would do something about it.
Yeah, you would think a father would pull you out of the situation. You know, we told our mother first, and we had a big family meeting, and you know, he asked what was going on, and we told him, and after...
So let's go there. You told your mother first.
Yes.
How long after this was going on did you tell your mother? A year, a couple of years?
Maybe a couple of years.
Yes. So you go to your mother and you tell her privately?
Yes.
And your mother said what?
Well, she kind of was like, get out of here, what are you talking about? Yeah. This doesn't happen. And we went to her when it became hurting us. Like the first fondling and stuff, we thought, okay, that could be fine. But then when it started hurting us, and when it became like intercourse and rape, we were like, no, we can't put up with this. We kept telling our mother and kept telling our mother, and then finally she talked to our father about the issue. And that's when we had the big family meeting.
With your brothers present?
Yes. Yeah. The whole family.
The whole family was present. And so what happened at the family meeting with the abusers?
Our father told our brothers to quit what they were doing. He hit them in their private areas and said, that's not used to do that with your sisters. Use that later on in life. And he just told them, this is not right. Quit doing what you're doing. And that was it, pretty much.
And then what happened?
Well, the brothers had left, and so did everyone else, and eventually it was just my father and I. And then he would, ask me, you know, what did your brothers do? What went where? Who touched who? But he asked me a lot of questions, and he was like, well, show me. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm your daughter, why should I show you how